Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Draco Software Codes episode blah 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 blah. We've been working on this project for a while. We've been in alpha for a while. We're looking pretty good. I really like the software in its current state and some of the things that it can do. So let's start with a quick demo of what it is that we are building. So this is on the local machine. Here's our alpha disclaimer and a bunch of projects that we've worked on as certain tests or something like that. Let's go ahead and create a new model. We're going to do something else. Let's do a video game, maybe a strategy game, right? strategy game. All right. So we're just going to create a quick model for a strategy game. This isn't something that you'd really use, but for a real game, it's not going to be nearly complete enough, but at least give you an idea of some of the things that you can do. So let's see here. So when you are building a real-time strategy game, the first thing you're going to need is a team, right? So you're going to need at least two forces, or two sides. So we'll have one, and we'll just call that a team. And each team is going to have a name. Not going to be a string. That's a very common thing that we need. What else is a team going to need? I don't know. Team might not need a whole lot else. Let's go ahead and pick a color for the team as well. And we'll just leave that as a string. That'll be an RGB string, sure. So teams are actually pretty basic things. And then let's go ahead. So a unit. Now a unit's going to have a lot more things. So first of all, it is going to have a name. And that's going to be a string. Maybe health, right, which is going to be an integer. Of course, it has to have a team, which is going to be a reference over to team. And what else is a unit going to have? Movement speed. And that's also going to be an integer, say. What else? Let's see, range. Vision. And, so they have a bunch of integers here. Right, range of movement. Right, and let's see, we already have movement speed, maybe damage, right, that would be an integer, and health, that's going to be, let's break that into max health, and then current health, and you can go on and on and on, right, as you start building out this unit more and more. And then maybe something else that we're going to have, we'll talk about. So we have units and we have teams. Maybe we have levels, right? So, when you're working on a game, you're going to have, different levels. So maybe each level will have a world name. And that would be a string, and a level name. That would also be a string, maybe a difficulty. Right, and let's go ahead and add an enumeration here, right? And so maybe come through and have some little different levels of difficulty. Right, and we'll just say easy, medium, hard. Keep hitting caps lock on this keyboard. Right, and so now our difficulty can go ahead and reference those difficulty levels. And so we start building all of this together. And then we'll bring these together because we're going to need, oops, I didn't mean to add an enumeration. Can I get rid of it? Yep. All right, we'll go ahead and add a match. And we'll say player 1 team, and that's going to be a reference to team. And then player 2 team, and that will also be a reference to team. And then match Victor. And it'll just be a string, player 1 or player 2. And then a reference to one of the levels that maybe that match happened at. So this is just a really rough sample of something that might exist for a very basic game, something like that. Now we can go ahead and render that code and just say, all right, well, what did that look like in JavaScript? And here it is. Here is a whole bunch of JavaScript that is potential code that could go into a web page. So, for example, the strategy game match, has player 1 team, player 2 team, who was the winner, what level was it played on. So all of that stuff that we typed in this model is showing up here on this page. The other thing we've been working on is this HTML Bootstrap. So now that downloaded a whole bunch of files. And I'm going to go ahead and delete our old test stuff since we have this new test stuff. And we're just going to bring that over there. So now we can go ahead and pull up our test page. And so we can see here's the name, here's the color, right? Name, max health. Right, and you can't type in text in the max health because we said that it's an integer. Hey, Johnny Blaze, welcome aboard. Right, and movement speed, range of vision. So these are all the integer values that we said that we'd be able to enter in here. Oh, current health looks like we called that a string instead of an integer. Oops. All right. So team, unit, levels, match. And again, this is all automatically generated. And down here we have our drop down for easy, medium, and hard for our difficulty levels. So, that comes together real fast, and all of a sudden it's useful. And we can take that and build on it and do more with it. But this gives us an excellent starting point so that we can start building our web application based off of this. So that's really cool. So where do we go from here? Well, so the first thing that I'm going to go do is I'm going to go fix one of these problems, which is, let's see here. That in here, our current health, instead of being an unknown, that is an integer. So that helps. All right, and then let's see here. What else do we want to do? So down here we have some kind of drop-down box that doesn't seem to be populated. So let's inspect this guy and see what the deal is. New enumeration. Oh, that was for the new enumeration that we deleted. So that's okay. It looks like we're not in our renderer. We're not checking to see whether or not the item is active before we render it. So let's. That is fairly easy to deal with. All right. And I just want to check the enumeration class, but that should have, active. Object.active, right. That is exactly what I expected here. All right, so m.active equals false. Return. Actually, you know what? Let's go up another level. Yeah. And make sure that file doesn't even get created. Okay. So now we're only generating and saving if it's active. And we should do a similar thing here. Only want to save those things that are actually active. And then, all right. That is just the index page. That does not need to be, oh, it's in there because of the file name, the scoping, file name, file buffer, and blob. Okay. So that is as it should be. All right. My code is used for models, frameworks, or web pages. So, good question. So my code is used for auto-generating other code. So it can be a framework if you want to look at it that way, but generally speaking, we design a model in this tool like this, and then that model can be rendered as a web page or a database backend. So, for example, the strategy game that I was just working on, and here it is again. Right, here's our strategy game as we just did it, and with a couple of refinements. So I can render that code, and I can pick what framework that I might want to use to do that. So, somebody might be a Ruby on Rails person. I'm not a Ruby on Rails person, but they could write a code renderer that would take this model and create a Ruby on Rails app, or a Java app, or a C# app. In this case, I have one here where it's like a MySQL database backend. And this is a legit MySQL database backend. Like, this actually goes, right? This is a real thing. So you have an idea and make a model. Suspense is killing me. Yeah. So, and then forward it to your team member. So, right, you can have an idea, make a model, or they can have an idea, make a model. And this will, automatically give them something to start with so that they don't have to write, validation to make sure that, in Java that, somebody entered an email address right. You just say in here, like, I want something to be, maybe we're going to add something, we'll add a player thing, right, to this. And so now a player needs a name, and maybe a player needs an email address. And you go over here and you drop down and you find email address. Email, right? And then we'll just say this team thing here, we'll also add a player, right? So we'll just add another reference. And so now, all of a sudden, when I render this code over to HTML and Bootstrap, all right, so I'm doing this on the web, but you can really render it to whatever you want. I guess I don't need the SQL file. And we refresh the page. And then now here's the player thing, and then the email address, right? And check this out. Please include an @ in the email address, so it recognizes that that's not a valid email address. So the dev team doesn't have to write everything from the ground up. That we're reusing it, we're doing all that boring code. And so, once you get that boring code out of the way, you can focus on, instead of, I need to validate email addresses for my players, you can focus on the things that, like, make your game, or make your social networking tool, right? It's, so, and there's still a fair amount of work there, but at least, you're not, we've corrected the current health here, right? Now we can't type in letters, where only numbers should go, and that's just one less thing for me to have to do. And you don't even have to be a programmer to create a model like this. You can be a higher level, management-y type person to start putting something like this together, and then the developer may come in and tweak it and make sense of it and reorganizing a little bit for the project, but you can at least get started and it makes sense and you're able to work with it. So that is the idea. So, so where are we? Well, we have generated this code. We have put in. Oh, did accept that as an email address. So we have this boilerplate code. It's a decent starting point. It's not a super awesome, but it is at least a reasonable starting point. So where do we want to go from here? Well, one thing that I'm noticing is that this enumeration isn't showing up in the levels automatically. And that's something that I would like to have happen. So I'm going to open this with gedit real quick and take a look at it and say why. All right, so we have a world name and level name, but we don't have the difficulty drop-down showing up in this. Now, if I look at the index page, I will see there should be a template difficulty levels. Look at that. That is where the difficulty level drop-down comes from. So now when I look at levels, I want that template to put a form there now, or at least put a drop down there. And it did that kind of, sort of. All right, so then we just got to figure out how to do it once, and then once we do it once, we can just replicate it, and it'll do it every time we generate that code. So I believe I can do that, and it will look a bit better. Yes, difficulty level is in this case easy. All right, so we can do that. And then the other thing we want to do is add this form control to there. And that will, well, it doesn't quite do it. It makes it better. Select class. There it is. That's what makes it look right. Okay, so what do we need to do from here? Let's see here. So the first things first, when we draw our enumeration, we are going to add, we're not just going to have the select, but we're also going to have form control as part of its class, so that we will build that out. And then what we're going to do for each HTML entity, let's see, so we're doing the save thing here. For each member, we render the form to go with it, and then so that's the HTML text function. And then here is where we take each of the types, internal types, and then we do something with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a case for reference. And let's see here. Are we going to do render HTML text area? No. All right, so that does entire text area. This does a form group, which includes a label, which we want. And then, render HTML input. And we don't want an input, but we will, let's go ahead and render HTML form group. And so that's the outer group. and then we figure out what goes inside of it. So give me just a second here. There we are. And then it's going to output plus equals, and then it's going to be model and the entity and the member. And then what we're going to put in there is, for now we're just going to do a quick test with template goes here. All right. So we're going to just do a real quick test, and we're going to take this, refresh, boop, pull up our strategy game, render code, HTML Bootstrap. Regret the fact that we didn't clear out the downloads folder. Clear it out, do it again. See, but when you're generating code, that's really nothing but a thing. All right, and then pull up the strategy game, refresh. Ah, look, see, so for the player, the template goes here. For the team, template goes here. All right, difficulty, player 1, team, player 2, team. So all of those missing things are now showing up. All right, and then all of that code that we were talking about is going to automatically happen in very cool ways. Now, one of the concerns I have is these don't seem to be married up quite right. But that's because we have a label, and then we don't have this thing that has a for. Right, so that label is supposed to go with something. Right, and so like label for is match dash match Victor, and then here's the match dash match Victor. Wow, that's a surprising tongue tie. Can't talk. Yay! All right. All right. Well, so we are going to then take our render simple input. We're going to take that function and you know, it renders simple input, but it itself is not that simple. There we go. All right. Plan B. Right. All right, so div class template dash, and then we're going to camelize. Okay, yep. The member's name. All right, refresh the page. Let's take a quick look on how that worked. There's a strategy game. We're going to run to the code, HTML Bootstrap. We did clear that out. Let's get rid of all that. Let's grab all this, move it over, and take a look at our thing again. Ah. All right, well, that screwed things up. Is there any limits to objects, types, classes, etc.? Practically, no. I mean, there's always some kinds of limits. I have built in a large number of primitives, integer strings, booleans, goods, basically everything that I could think of, dates, times, timestamps, that were kind of universal. But then you can just start adding classes and doing things to your heart's content. This, of course, did not go as I wanted. So let's take a look at what the heck happened here. So first of all, let's take a look at levels. I don't know where the editor for that went when I did that. All right, open with gedit. All right, so difficulty, div class template difficulty, and div. So that div goes with that div. That div goes with that div. Uh-oh. Yeah, and that one's left over. That's no good. So there's part of the problem, is that our divs aren't correct. Now that class, template difficulty, that should have come across okay. I'm not sure why it didn't. All right, so we have dealt with some of the problems that our divs are now matching. Although when we have our team here, right? And then we say, well, what player is it? It puts the entire player form in here. And that's not really what we want, and we know that. So we'll address that in a little bit here. The one I'm concerned about is the difficulty doesn't seem to be... Oh, yeah. Because it's putting in the name of the source, not the name of the referred item. Oh, man. Yeah, what is that? So when we have a member... and it is a reference. How do we, and then those are parameters. Display type, parent ID. We need to get, so when we have a member that's a reference, we need to get the, not the name of the member, but the type of the reference. So, parent ID, multiplicity single, multiplicity extended, custom attributes. Oh, let's see here. Is there a renderer where we do this? Yes. Let's take a look at our MySQL renderer, because that one actually works. Create the main tables, and then this does all of its references and everything as GUIDs, though. So cross-reference tables have a defined type when we're referencing something. So that's a little bit of a fly in the ointment. All right. Fine. That's okay. We can work with this. We're just going to have to do it in a couple steps. And the first step is to log mem. Now, to find the thing that we're logging, I put somebody's name in my code, to find it. So Johnny Blaze, welcome to the broadcast. You are now being useful. Now if I render code into HTML Bootstrap and I open up the JavaScript console, there you are. See? Okay. All right, let's see here. Get custom attributes, active, pent ID. So, all right, we have a bunch. All right, so we're going to say temp1.name, which is this. All right, so that is a reference to level. And so we're going to say temp1.extended. Just you know what? And we can look in here, data types. Those are the types. Where are attributes? Here we go. Refers to. Huh. Okay. So that one referred to an object. Temp2 refers to what? Temp2.name. Yes, it's a function. Oh. Also level. Temp3.name. That's player 2 team. Make it even easier. Strategy game. Render code. HTML Bootstrap. There we go. Level, player 2 team, player 1. Difficulty. Here we go. This is the one that I want. Temp1.name should be difficulty. Dot extended refers to. Aha. So I don't know. Yeah, refers to enum is nothing. Okay. So, but now we can see when we have a reference. Great. So we can ID reference ID is equal to mem.extended.refers to. Now we can do, because we have our model, find, or what is it, get? Oh, good grief. Sometimes the IntelliSense doesn't work well enough, and that really drives me nuts. Find component by GUI. Also helps if I have the right things to start with. All right, so we have search, we have some results, and debug console.log. Been doing too much Unity programming. I'm thinking Unity.debug or debug.log instead of console.log. Results, and then I'm going to grab CA2 has recently joined the room, so great. Sorry, Johnny Blaze, your usefulness is worn out. Or at least for purposes of debugging. All right, object. So object, the object type is entity. Yeah, see, look at this. So we can see whether or not I'm referring to an entity or an enumeration. I can make decisions there if I need to. That's excellent. In this case, I don't need to worry about that so much. Right? but there it is. Okay. If type of, oh, that's right. Yes. Type of results dot obj is not equal to undefined, then we do stuff. And then in this case, we will say results dot obj.name. So now instead of the name of the member, we are, so we said, oh yeah, well, my thing floppity blue is a reference to people. And then I said a template of floppity blue, when really I should be saying a template of people. So now we're seeing that, okay, this is a reference over to people. And so we go find out whatever that is a reference to. We go grab one, and then we take the name and we say reference that template. All right, so that should help immensely. Or it'll break everything. It's one of the two. I mean, it's really, there seems to be very little middle ground here. Oh, jeez. Clean up. Yeah, delete all. Oh, fine, skip it. Jeez. Try again. Click. Boom, code. See? Refresh. Okay. So we're getting bad results, but we're getting very consistently bad results. So that is progress. So for example here, when we have a team, right, that has a player with a name and an email. Now the kicker here is that we don't actually want this to happen. We don't want this full template to show up for a player reference. What do we want there? I'm not sure. I'm guessing we would either want an autocomplete search, or we would want perhaps a modal that would pop up and let us choose a player or add a new player if we need to. For the enumerations, we really do want it to be a drop-down. And so here's our difficulty enumerations, and it is, in fact, a drop-down. So, we can use this reference because this tells us what it is. We can take action immediately, right? Because we have a reference type. And I don't remember what the heck we called it. So strategy game, render code, Bootstrap. Yeah. Okay. So obj type. Okay. If results.obj type is equal to else and then we'll just say sub object or object reference templates, or yeah, class reference templates not working yet. Right, so now we're making more and more decisions, providing better and better feedback as we go. Strategy game, render code, clean out the old directory. See, I can be taught. All right, and then we refresh this page. All right, player class reference template's not working yet. Yay! That actually makes sense. And then we come down to difficulty, and difficulty shows up as easy, medium, and hard. And then this is just the end of the page template that we have one of these. So, excellent. Now let's take a look at what the heck is going wrong with the formatting. So we are in a form group. We have a label for level of difficulty, and it's called difficulty. And then in that we have difficulty level select. And then that's where we have the actual select. So what I'm not seeing is where we have some commands here about size. So we're going to say column small 10, and that's exactly what we needed here. Right. So knowing that this goes into a form, now that is going to not always be viable for us to do. Okay, output. So we do put the text in there, and so we should already have the column size text in that. So maybe that's really not that bad, because this just goes in the rest of the page with the other stuff. And then the other thing we can do is on the index page, when we generate the HTML index, now that we're including the enumerations in our drop-downs, we don't have to include them in our home page anymore. Right, because now that we already have this cascading template thing going on, we've already handled that. So strategy game, render code, HTML, Bootstrap, clean that out. Skip. Strategy game here. Okay. Uh-oh. Doesn't work now. How do we break it? What do we do? All right, you know what? We'll bring that back. Oh, that's right. We need that. Yeah, we need that earlier in the document. Oh, yeah, we do need that earlier in the document. Otherwise, it doesn't load the source. Got it. Because this is adding it to the sources. All right, but here is where we enumerate through, and we're not doing it by source. So we can pull that one out of there instead. All right. As I'm always a fan of removing code. I love refactoring and getting rid of code. The less code you have, the less maintenance that you have to do on it. Just as long as you don't get too clever. Now, the other thing is here is we have this form and this div for the form group, label, and then that div, oh, it's for all of that. Match Victor. It's strange that I'm seeing this form here for the match. That's That is odd. All right, no, there's more that we're gonna have to investigate. That's for sure. Very clearly. There it is. There's the difficulty sitting there, nice and easy, beautifully in place with everything else. Right? And then we didn't get that extra one at the bottom of the page because we didn't need that anymore. That's wonderful. Right? This is precisely what we're looking for. All right. So name, color, player. So this is one where things aren't what they should be. All right, so we have this form, and that form is together. That group. I think we're just missing a beginning div, actually. Right, and I think it's going to be here in player. There's the label. There's the end of that div. Yeah, see, this is where things are starting to go off the rails, I think. Because that's for the form group, and that's for the form group. No, okay. Let me shrink this down a little bit. Yeah, there's the label. And then that div goes with that div. That div goes with that div. In theory, it should be fine, but let's see, what is my problem? All right, so I liked that, so we're just going, oop. Oh God, I've gotten into column select mode and I don't know how. All right. Oh, this will be fun. Right, so this is one of those things where this div starts and then it doesn't end. I'm wondering if this is going to make the problem better or worse. Limit is the sky. I agree with that. And beyond if you're an astronaut. There we go. All right. So some of the code automatically closes some div tags is the problem. And in this case, it assumes that there would be div tags there, and there are no div tags there. So that's what was going wrong. But now we have this really nice form where we have our difficulties and we have our level names and we have everything else. So the only thing that we don't have are these class references, and those are going to be problematic because we don't know any of the data on the server. Right now everything is everything we have done on this project for this render thus far has been client side. So we need to think about starting to interface with the server and start populating things that way. So the only other thing I want to see here, because all of that looks great. So how to make an autocomplete box. Right, so this is all going to be simple autocomplete with HTML5 and jQuery and that kind of thing. So creating an autocomplete text box is going to be a whole nother problem. Why don't we at least start putting in a placeholder for that problem, though? Right? So instead of this, call small 10, and then it's not going to be a template. And we're going to say autocomplete. And then we're going to autocomplete for the thing that we have referenced. What else should we do there? Hold on. So really, it is an HTML input. So we are going to do it like an HTML input, but it's going to be a bit different. All right, and then, all right, so this Alt-Shift-Insert apparently is how we get into column select mode. So we're going to say render HTML autocomplete. And so we don't have a pattern, we don't have a pattern statement, we don't have a max length, we don't have column size. Yeah, maybe we have a column size. Right, sure. So I'll use that. And then we have input type text, class is equal to form control, and then we'll just do autocomplete. Apparently there's one that's already UI autocomplete. That may be a jQuery thing. All right. This queue name hasn't been defined. That's going to be the qualified name. So we want that. And no placeholder. And then there's no max length statement or a pattern statement. All right. So let's go ahead, pull up our strategy game here, render the code, HTML Bootstrap, go to the old stuff, new stuff, bring it in. I feel like I missed a step. Yep, I clearly missed a step. Yeah, like, how about calling the code that we just wrote? All right. So we just render that autocomplete with the model int mem size of 10. There we go. Now I feel like it's a little more complete. All right, so we pull up our model and we render that into software, and we delete our old version, grab our new version. Oops. Bring it over and see how we explode. Okay. That's pretty sweet. So, now we know that these would be the active teams or the active levels that would be automatically populated. So we don't have our autocompletes working yet. Everything else on this page works and does exactly what it's supposed to do. So our teams automatically created. We have input boxes for what we need input boxes for. There's numeric and text validation, right? If we have like email address, it does some basic validation to make sure that those are entered as needed. And we have placeholders for our next step, which is going to be looking at doing autocompletes. And that's going to be a whole nother saga, because an autocomplete requires a server backend, and this has not touched the server backend. So this is where kind of the HTML and the pure HTML and Bootstrap kind of drops off, right? It's only going to get you so far before you need some kind of server backend, and I think we've hit that limit. But because it's Bootstrap, it scales nicely, right? It does pretty good as you resize and whatnot. And so, again, with difficulty, easy, medium, hard, all of that, is brought in from one generic enum that's a static page. And again, as we start building more back-end references and whatnot, we can have that be dynamic content. But for now, it's actually really easy to go in and just add new values, because you can just do it with a text editor. All right. I'm very happy with where we are and the progress we've made this evening. So next week we are going to have to tackle new challenges, because we're pretty much done here for our rudimentary HTML Bootstrap render code. And so there is enough here that you can do a lot with this kind of code, and automatically generate huge applications potentially with what we just have here. So very exciting. I'm guessing we're going to be hitting up some of our JavaScript code, and then once we've done the HTML, once we've done the JavaScript, then we can come back and get these autocompletes working, because we will have a front-end scripting language that we can start integrating with. So we have our structure and we have our style, and so now we're going to be adding in behaviors, both front-end and back-end. So very exciting. So I'm just going to do a quick recap for those people that are coming in late here about what this is. So this is a tool that writes code in other programming languages and other tools. So this is a web-based tool, so where you can come in here and maybe you're interested in politics or whatever. Maybe that was a bad example. Some of my projects are a little corrupt since it's a work in progress. We'll use a baseball one. So maybe you're interested in baseball, right? And you have players and teams and leagues, and you've built this out and said, this is what I want, in a team and a player and whatnot. And so now I can take that and I can render code and I can say, show me a database for my baseball database. And here it is. It automatically generated based on this quick little form that I created. Now I have a SQL database that I can just take and dump into SQL Server, and there it is. And there's my enumeration with the leagues and my teams and whatnot, which is pretty awesome. And then I can generate this HTML Bootstrap stuff, and I can just delete what I have in my current test environment, bring my new things over, and refresh this page over here, and here it is. Here's the name of the team, date it was formed, number of World Series wins. Nope, that should be an integer, and it's not. Who's the mascot? And then here's a reference over to the players, and then the reference over to leagues, right? American League, National League. So you saw how that was handled in the database, and now you can also see how it's handled in the front end. Automatically written up for you so that you can take this, refine it, add whatever styles you want, or do whatever else you need to do under the hood, and then move on and do something else. So that you're not, fighting with these, creating a date entry, widget and making sure that it's arranged right in Bootstrap, that you have a decent starting point, and then you can take that and surround it with another website as you need. So that's what we've done, that's where we're going, and that's what we're up to. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. If you have any questions or thoughts, go ahead. Now's the time to enter them in chat as I get everything under source control. If you got something out of this, please go ahead and like or share, tell a friend. I am here every Monday evening adding more code to the code base and building it out more and more. So grateful to have you here, and thank you very much for joining us. There is a Patreon if you are interested in being a patron. And so what that'll get you as we build this out, patrons will get unlimited ability to make more and more models on the server. And that is pretty much it. All right, so let's take a look, and I am just going to go ahead and commit everything to source control. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and deploy this out to our web server as well. So you can check it out on dracosoftware.com/Draco model. Feel free to go, check it out, try it out. Just know that I will likely have to clear out the database after a while, because it's going to be filled with cruft, because our database model changes and projects will get abandoned and things like that, and we're in alpha, so it's just going to be, a little touch and go. Don't put anything that you also need super secure on there, because we haven't done all of the security things that we'd probably need to do for a production system. So, thank you very much for tuning in again. I'm not seeing any last-minute questions, so I will bid you all a good evening, and I'll see you next week. Have fun and take care.